Flash, ah, savior of the universe. Yeah, there's no way to wade into this. So, welcome to StillerBros at the Movies, everyone. And, today we're covering the end of the DCEU as it stands right now, The Flash. This is a lot complicated one. Part of it being the fact that it took so fucking long for this thing to be made, but also because they got some pretty big baggage going on. So, how about those twins? They're not playing. I don't think they're. Is it even baseball season right now? I don't know. I just need to avoid the conversation. Okay. Well, I think we should start off with this. We know Ezra Miller is non-binary, so we are going to try our best to use they, them pronouns. So, when addressing them. However, that doesn't also excuse the fact that they also have a lot of issues that should really be handled professionally, as well as consequences, as well as the fact that they have done a lot of terrible things that they seem to have not faced any actual consequences for. So, just getting it out there that if we slip up, we are sorry, but if we slip up, we're talking about their character. Yes, we're talking about their character, because the last thing we want to do is misgender a non-binary person in the middle of fucking Pride. But on the other hand, this particular non-binary person has beaten people up, has assaulted people, robbed them at gunpoint, endangered children, and potentially done sexual... And potentially groomed a woman. And potentially groomed someone. Hold on. This is not good. They started a fucking cult. So, when we say... So, we're probably not going to be praising Ezra Miller later when we're talking about the actual movie itself. Because we don't want to give any kind of praise to that psycho. Now, if anything, we're starting with the hard stuff, because the rest of this movie's production has been troubled in so many other ways. And it is tame by DC movie standards at this point. So, starting in about 2015, when they started to try to get this whole catastrophe off the ground, they had Rick Famuyiwa of at the time Dope, and even before that they had Seth Grahame-Smith signed on to write and direct it as his directorial debut. He then backed out. Rick Famuyiwa was brought back in, and then for whatever reason he left due to creative differences. They attempted to bring in John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein, now of Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves fame. They ended up backing out too for undisclosed reasons. Then they started looking at people the likes of Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who apparently wrote a draft of the script. Robert Zemeckis, who I guess was for some reason interested in this. Jordan Peele, he was never going to do this. And so many other directors before they eventually settled on one Mr. Andy Muschietti, who is probably best known as the director of the It duology that came out a few years ago. And based on a lot of stuff that they've done, it seemed like an interesting take, with the fact that we've had horror people in DC do great things with DC, with David F. Sandberg and James Wan. But then there's the fact that this is a movie that has been through a lot of production snafus. Then you throw on Ezra Miller in the midst of all this, making it a lot harder to do this without making it look like this is going nuts. But speaking of nuts, yeah, we forgot the return. We have something that is the island in the sea of bullshits. The one oasis. The return of Michael Keaton as Batman. So, we were not alive for Batman 89, but we are still well aware that Michael Keaton as Batman was the Ben Affleck as Batman of its day. because a lot of people did not want Mr. Mom or just a stand-up comedian. Michael Keaton was a stand-up comedian. Does anyone remember that? Because I stumbled on it on YouTube, and that's interesting. To play Batman, and now no one can shut up about how he is one of the best Batmen. People have been tweeting out flyers that they found of people demanding that they call Warner Brothers to get them to recast Michael Keaton. And now Michael Keaton as Batman. It's one of the most lauded things in this movie. And of course, that's probably a big reason why a lot of people will end up seeing this movie, despite everything Ezra Miller's done, because they're dangling a Batman shaped cookie in front of you. Yes. But then there's also the likes of Sasha Calle, a newcomer who is playing a alternate reality version of Supergirl. And when we say newcomer, we mean newcomer. Like her, the only thing she's really done before this was that she was on a soap opera, which she gave up to do this. She gave up some steady work in the acting profession to basically jump into her very first movie ever. And now her whole career is up in the air because of that. And Michael Keaton came back as Batman specifically for this, but he was also up for Batgirl, which is never coming out at this point because Zaslav is a moron. So who insists that he's right, despite the fact that everyone on the internet seems to be screaming at him that he's wrong. Pay your goddamn writers! Anyway, also in the whole mix of this is Christina Hodgson, who is the writer of Birds of Prey and Bumblebee. So yeah, fantastic writer. We'll no doubt have something at least comprehensible through it all. Once again, pay her goddamn it. And of course the fact that this is an adaptation of the famed Flashpoint saga from the comic books, in which the Flash finds out that he has time travel powers and plans to use it to fix certain events in his past that may or may not have led to his origin story. This was obviously this has been a thing that they've been talking about pretty much since Batman v Superman crashed and burned, and Justice League failed to fix it. So Flashpoint is the basis. So of course they needed an older Batman, so that's why they brought Michael Keaton in. But then there's the fact that they're deciding that what charisma Ezra Miller has as a performer needs to be stretched into two different characters. So we've got a buddy movie of Barry Allen and Barry Allen? No way! As well as some cameos that Twitter spoiled for us because they're kind of leaving a bad taste in people's mouths. As both the fact that most of them are very CGI heavy, and also it feels like cultural grave robbing, particularly with one in particular that I won't spoil because I like you people too much. But yeah, there's a darker thing that they didn't seem to consider when they were deciding, hey, let's recreate this guy. Yeah. And yeah, this is a long, strange trip of a production to get to this movie. We've come to the end of the DCEU as it stands. From here on out, everything is stuff that James Gunn at least has some kind of ability to control. Blue Beetle and Aquaman 2 were still in production just when James Gunn was signing contracts and stuff, but at least we have enough time on both of those to course correct. And then we'll see where James Gunn and Peter Safran take the whole thing. But for right now, we'll see what happens. This is complicated, and it's gonna remain complicated as long as Ezra Miller is still not facing any real consequences. All we've gotten so far is that they apparently sought treatment, but we're not sure how, and they were seen at the premiere, and no one seemed to mind that they were at the premiere here seemingly unsupervised in any way. They were at especially since they were only there to really do photo ops, and then they kind of just didn't really answer reporter questions or anything. They just kind of went away. So yeah, don't know what to make of that part of this. Hopefully the movie is decent. We've heard mixed things for the most part, but in the long run, the DCEU has been very mixed overall. Whether you think there's a mixture of dumpster fires and a mixture of good ones, and then you got Suicide Squad and Peacemaker. Thank God, season 2 is all but confirmed for Peacemaker. It was confirmed. Well, it was confirmed, but right now James Gunn's busy. But still, this is going to become. Every review of this movie so far has to kind of sort of become a post-mortem of the DCEU as a whole. So, and hopefully we'll come out the other side of this and DC will start making really good movies. Their universe will be able to flourish in the same way that Marvel's has, and we'll get good movies, because that's all we really want. Good movies. We don't even need them to be great, but just good movies. But we'll see. And for right now, I guess we'll see after the jump. So that ending. Yeah, that ending. The rest of the movie's fine, but that last 20 seconds. That was just. I'm so happy with that ending. That last 20 seconds. Like, seriously, probably the best last 20 seconds of a movie so far this year. Granted, but the rest of the movie, once again, it's fine. It's not the Guardians of the Galaxy or Across the Spider-Verse or anything like that. But that ending, that's gonna piss a lot of people off. But I'm not one of them. I'm just so happy, and I hope that this is a sign of where they're going forward. Yeah. So Snyderverse people, die match. Go touch some grass. Get the fuck out of here. We're done now. The Snyderverse is dead and buried. But let's talk about the rest of the movie. Michael Keaton is definitely he's having some kind of fun. I don't know if it's like a thing. It doesn't seem like something he was dragged into kicking and screaming, where it's like, fine, I've been doing all these like prestige dramas and stuff like that, but I guess I'll do Batman again just because you guys want me to. I mean, one of the things I love about this movie is just the fact that we have Michael Keaton's Batman doing things that Michael Keaton's Batman could not do back in 1989, simply because the special effects and everything weren't there yet. But of course now we've got an older, wizened Batman who's also dealt with a lot of stuff, and that's something to be happy with. Yes. Especially with this interpretation of Batman, which everyone liked because it was so dark and gritty and Frank Miller inspired. That it's like, look, there, you got a nice middle ground between this and Zack Snyder's. Well, how much grittier can we get? The answer is none. What they did with Supergirl here is really interesting. I hope that they do something that this launches her career into something else. I hope Sasha Calle is able to either find something else that's just as big, or they use this version of Supergirl again, this actress in particular, and playing a much more traditional version of Supergirl in terms of attitude, not in terms of look or anything like that. Yeah. Especially since we know there's a Supergirl movie coming soon, eventually. There's a plan for a Supergirl movie. There's a plan for a Superman movie. The Superman movie is probably the only thing in the current plans for the DCU that has everything locked into place right now. Yeah. Except for the actors, but James Gunn is probably going to keep that close to the vest until he has to. Yeah. Until he doesn't have to anymore. But I think Andy Muschietti is really showing that he's got a lot of chops when it comes to that. He's the guy who pushed it over the finish line. One way or another, you can't, if you really want to insult the guy, he is the guy who did push it over the finish line. This and the It movie were basically two movies that at a certain point most studios would have called unfilmable. Not Warner Brothers, but still. Yeah, especially the fact that those movies did have a lot of production issues. Both movies basically swapped directors at like the 11th hour. In this particular case, they swapped directors at the 11th hour like 4 times. But yeah, but this time with the 11th hour got stretched out a little bit just because of the fact that a pandemic hit pretty much just before they were going to get to work on it, so they had time to make some real adjustments to it. And granted, I think Andy Muschietti was also kind of locked down by what they had done with the Flash before this. is like they do a lot of the same kind of gags that we haven't seen Zack Snyder's Justice League, but we do know a lot of the gags that Snyder did with the Flash's super speed, slowing down time, and it seems and a lot of them seem very similar.
Yeah.
But I think that he at least had a lot of... You could definitely tell the number of times he used Danny Elfman music cues that he was loving the fact that he could just bring out the Danny Elfman score to be like, look, it's Batman. I got Batman. Batman. Michael Keaton's Batman.
Yeah, we got a lot... And a lot of the CGI cameos, they were fine. I mean, we're not the people to ask about that kind of stuff.
It's rough, and it's a little rough. It's like, okay, you can definitely tell these guys are CGI. Once again, at least one of them, it's just like, maybe not, because because this particular actor has a lot of has a lot of baggage behind him.
Although there is a joke in one of those CGI things that just made us laugh in the theater because we know the story.
We know the story. Most people know the story. So to have that little inside reference, just fun.
Yes.
And overall, the fact that we're talking about this means that, yeah, it's kind of a fine movie. Once again, the rest of the movie, fine.
One thing that really took me out of it, and it's not really the movie's fault, is the fact that in the back of your head, you're always just reminded of Ezra Miller and the things that they did and the things that are continuing to happen with whatever is going on with them.
If you can separate the art from the artist more than we can, which we try to, God knows we try to, but then you might have a better time than us. But
it was like I was enjoying scenes, and then I had to keep pushing back into my mind. They do not deserve to be. You really shouldn't be enjoying this movie as much as you are right now, because this is not a good person on the screen. The person on the screen is not a good person.
Especially considering the fact that... Especially with the fact that a lot of scenes accidentally become meta jokes seem to be meta references to Ezra Miller's...
They can't possibly be meta references to Ezra Miller's...
I know they're not, but...
We know they're not.
But it's almost... But there's certain points where it almost feels like the honest trailer jokes write themselves.
Yeah. And although one aspect of the movie that makes me feel okay about the Ezra Miller stuff is the younger version of Barry is kind of obnoxious and annoying.
Like, it's very clear that that's what the movie wants to happen, but it also feels like at no point does he become endearing, like most characters like this would be in most movies.
Like he is a little bit at the end when we get to a certain point during the climax, but he has this like really annoying laugh, and
I understand the reason for a younger Barry to be in this movie, at least in some principle, to kind of show how the Barry from the main timeline is different from the Barry from the timeline we're spending most of the movie in. But it just kind of shows that there's a kind of a lack of character development. He's like this for most of the movie. He just does not understand. He does not understand the weight of what's going on. He's everything that Marvel haters claim all Marvel movies are like.
It's up until the last third. He doesn't really start to actually grow and change until like the last third of the movie.
And it's just kind of a thing where it's like, I should be... At a certain point, he's gonna stop being annoying, right? At a certain point, he's gonna stop being annoying, right?
And at a certain point, he does stop being annoying, but again, he does stop being annoying, but it's not just one of those things where it's like, okay, maybe they shouldn't have dialed up maybe they should have dialed his humor back a little bit. And really, it's where a lot of those issues, it's kind of a big issue in the film, is that we have this character who takes up most of the screen time.
And look, past Barry, the past Barry, the alternate Barry, whatever you want to call him, is basically set up to be the comic relief sidekick, but also kind of the moral through line of the movie. Just an example of how, just a kind of a mini version of Barry's arc his arc is just going from the lazy college barely dropout dipshit just straight into what Barry actually is supposed to be, whereas Barry's arc is a completely different thing. But
yeah, as it was pointed out to us at one point, this is basically the third time a DC movie has taken the concept of a Marvel movie that came out in the same year and just flipped who the bad guy and the good guy are.
Yeah, like Batman v Superman was basically flipping Civil War, but Aquaman was basically Black Panther, and this is basically Across the Spider-Verse again.
Yeah.
Except in this particular version they're all very much on the side of canon events are necessary.
Yeah.
Alright, which is debatable, but I feel like Across the Spider-Verse makes it abundantly clear that no, canon events aren't supposed to be you're not supposed to, you don't have to suffer to be a good person.
Stuff is not there, and that the future is not, and that we basically get the ending of Back to the Future 3 where the future isn't written yet, so make it a good one.
Except in this particular case, it's like it doesn't seem to remember that the ending of Back to the Future was, hey, if you change enough stuff, your life could be awesome. And your parents could be still in love with each other, and your mom and your dad's bully could be out waxing the car, and you got a nicer car, and your mom likes your girlfriend. And why would you want the other universe?
And this one kind of has that at the end where it's like, oh, well, now, can't say, because it's kind of awesome and we don't want to spoil it.
One thing's for sure, I'm pretty sure Ben Affleck gave it his blessing.
Yeah, absolutely.
On his way out, like, tagging you in.
Let's go.
But, overall, it's fine.
Yeah.
I didn't hate it. I think we've got a lot to. I think whatever James Gunn and Peter Safran do in the future, I have high hopes for it. It's not the best superhero movie that's come out this year. It's definitely not the worst superhero movie that the DC Extended Universe has made. If it could have gone out as a garbage fire, instead it just kind of goes out with a halfway decent movie.
Yes.
I'm fine with it. I don't hate this.
Yeah, but. Yeah, that's a lot of what's coming to this point now.
So that's the end of the Flash and Ash.
That's the end of
this era in DC films. And hopefully we get good movies here. Hopefully we get at least passable movies through here.
We move forward. The Snyderverse is gone and buried, and we move on to the next thing.
And if you're really mad that we're not going to get more, just remember, I don't think Zaslav's taking these away from you.
No.
He takes so much, but I'm pretty sure these movies are still going to be available on HBO Max. They're still going to be available in Blu-rays and DVD packs and everything like that. It's not erased from history. All this stuff still exists.
Of all the stuff that Zaslav has erased, it doesn't look like he's going to be erasing these anytime soon.
Especially since he, for some reason, thinks this is the best superhero movie he's ever seen, which he hasn't seen he hasn't seen a lot of other superhero movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, for right now, that's it. The Flash is fine. Onward and forward. And be sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, share this with your friends. Don't forget to leave in the comments what you thought of The Flash. If you liked it, disliked it, whatever, let's discuss. And don't forget to tune in next time when it belongs in a museum. Bye.
Bye.